I want to share 8 habits that I have developed and incorporated into my life in today's podcast. And it's not the typical habits like drink more water or add this to your diet or do this in your workout. It's more mindset habits that have completely shifted my life.
Hi, my name is Pernilla, and this is my Challenge Your Norm podcast. I'm absolutely obsessed with anything related to personal development, and well, to grow, we gotta challenge our norm. And so on this podcast, we chat about life and how we can challenge our normal way of living it to make it greater than we could have ever imagined. Just one little belief, habit, bold move, and perspective at a time. I just got back from Bali, 3 weeks. I spent there 2 weeks with my dad and his family and 1 week at a retreat with my mom. It is my 2.5 day back, and I woke up way too early. It is currently 2:42 a.m., but it's my own fault because I went to bed at 6 p.m., which is just the worst mistake you can make when you're trying to overcome jet lag. But I was tired and I was reading in bed and I just fell asleep. And so we're recording this episode very early in the morning. While I was gone, I had a lot of reflections. I really needed that. I feel like I had gotten into such a productive flow, such an intense workflow that I needed to ground myself and reconnect with myself. And so I've done a lot of reflections on what I want to be focusing on moving forward, and I will do my best. And these 8 habits that we're going to be chatting about today, I believe are going to help me, as I hope they are going to help you in your 2023 as you get reminded of these things. I know that in other episodes, I'm probably going to dig into every single one of these habits in more details. But today, I just want to share them with you so that it could hopefully spark something within you, remind you of something maybe you've been working on in the past. And the first one is a habit that really is the foundation of growth in general, and that is developing and cultivating a growth mindset, which really just means that we can improve upon and develop our abilities and our successes with continuous resilience, putting effort in, and continuously learning and striving to get better. So instead of thinking that we have our life together, we know everything that there is to know in this world, that we believe that we're capable of change, that if we put in the work, if we are open-minded to hearing other people's perspectives and learning, that we can change. And so that really, a growth mindset just really opens up a completely new world, because we all have these beliefs about ourselves, right? And if we know deep within that we can change these beliefs about ourselves, that we can change our current levels in these different areas of our life, we know that we don't have to be stuck there, that there's more for us to experience if we just dare to put in the work and dare to think bigger and dare to be open-minded instead of staying stagnant. And a little example that I want to share is that when I was 18 and I was introduced to my first self-development book, my dad shared this one with me, and he was like, "Oh, I think you're really gonna like this self-development book, which is Heal Your Life by Louise Hay." I've talked about it before. I was like, "No, Dad, like I know these things. Like I know self-development." And that is really the opposite of a growth mindset. And even though I said, "No, Dad, I don't want to listen. I don't want to read this book," I still ended up reading it, and it completely shifted my life. And this thought that I can set goals, and by setting the goals, I will naturally be more likely to align my action towards actually achieving that goal. I will align the energy, and I will attract the energy and the things that make it possible for me to actually achieve that goal. And that was like the beginning of my growth mindset journey. And I feel like every time in life when I am very stubborn, when I am very much like I was in that example instance, that I was like, no, I know what is right and wrong. Like every time I'm wanting to prove my point to someone else, that is typically when I'm staying stuck in a limiting mindset rather than a growth mindset. When I'm open to hearing what they have to say, when I am maybe having a belief that I have developed, I can stay grounded in that and still be open to other people's perspective, open to learning more within that subject, and knowing that just because I believe this now, that doesn't mean that doesn't change, because really all I know is that I don't know anything, because every time I think I know something, then a year later I'll have learned more, and then I'll feel like what I thought a year ago no longer really is what I believe anymore. So really cultivating this growth mindset and being open-minded to other people's views and learning and believing that just because I maybe suck at something now, that doesn't mean that if I put in the work and resilience and learn more about that topic, then then that doesn't mean I will continuously suck. Then that means that I will continuously evolve within that area and get better. And so I'm hoping maybe there's something right now, you have a belief about not being good at something, that you can start off by taking that area of your life that you don't feel you're good at, that maybe you want to get better at, and maybe reading a book on that subject. Or if you're having challenges in your relationship, really being open-minded to listening to the other person's perspective so that you can learn within that area. The second habit that I continuously am practicing is learning from my judgment of others, which judgment oftentimes for a lot of us comes from a place of jealousy. And what I mean by that is that if we are judging the way that someone acts, dresses, are, say, whatever, it's typically because they have a quality that we have neglected, that we as young adults tried to push down because we believe that in order for us to get loved, we needed to not be that. To be a good human, to be loved by others, that was not an acceptable trait. So for instance, when I was a teenager, my stepdad at the time, he's no longer my stepdad, but he was a good man, and I have only love towards him. But at the time, he bothered me because he was very loud and he voiced his opinion and took up a lot of space. And that bothered me because I deep down had this belief that for me to be loved, for me to be good enough, I had to not be loud. I had to not voice my opinion. Rather, I should agree with everyone because then they would like me more. So that was my belief. And so because that was my belief, I would put myself in this box. I wouldn't always voice my opinion. I would make sure that I wasn't too loud, taking up too much space. And because I had put myself in that box, he would bother me. It would bother me that he was the opposite of that. But once I learned, I went to a therapist at the time, and once I learned that the reason he was bothering me was because I had learned that those qualities that he was not okay for me to be. So I would neglect those sides of me and not allow myself to be that. But once I started allowing myself to sometimes be loud when I felt like it, or sometimes voice my opinion if I felt like it, and learn to love those sides of me, he would no longer bother me because now I allowed myself to be that too. And I learned to love those sides of me. And so suddenly it was okay for him to be that as well, because I taught myself that it was okay for me to be that. And so I think that when we judge someone or when we feel jealous of someone, it is an incredible lesson, an incredible reminder that what that ability is that bothers us is something that we need to learn to incorporate or love within ourselves. We as humans are whole, and as kids, little aspects of us as we grow up and as we get disciplined to be a good child, a good human in this world, small parts of us are taken depending on what we experience as children that we need to be in order to survive, in order to really feel loved in this world. And so these little parts of us are taken away from us. But as we grow older, we can choose to bring back those parts of us that we had neglected, that we had disowned and learned that we were not allowed to be. And the more we learn to love all of these sides to us, whether that being like being selfish, being like what I was mentioning, being too loud or too confident or showing ourselves in ways that we thought we weren't allowed to, the more we learn to love all these sides to ourselves, the more whole we will become. And the more we understand and love ourselves, the less we're going to judge others, the more we're going to love everything that other humans are. And it's something that I've been practicing for the last many years. And it's so freeing when you stop judging other people, when you start to see whenever something comes up that is bothering us as lessons, as something that we can really use in our own life. And so I'm just hoping that next time you go on social media or you have a discussion with your partner or your parent or your child, that whatever it is that is bothering you within them, instead of judging them, take a step back and maybe sit with a journal or just ask yourself, what is it? What is the quality that I currently am judging or disliking within this other human? And ask yourself, is this a quality that I allow myself to be? Is this a quality that I am okay with being myself? And this may be a very challenging thing for you and for me, for all of us to accept, because this deep belief within us is going to say, yeah, but it's not okay to be that. But then something that has really helped me is ask myself, what time in my life did I experience being this quality? And then ask myself, what was good about the fact that I was this quality? Let's talk about selfish. This is something I've talked about before, but I used to also have this judgment towards others who were selfish because I was a pleaser and I wanted, to always just like make sure everyone else is happy and I wouldn't be selfish. But then when I wanted to get rid of judging others for being selfish and also sometimes myself be selfish, because we all know that we all need to be selfish sometimes to be able to have more to give others. When I thought of times that I was selfish in my own life, like taking out time in the morning, even though that may not have suited someone else, or taking that last piece of whatever, cake or chicken or whatever, and when I knew that someone else maybe wanted that as well. When I started understanding that, actually, there's times in life where it's good to be selfish. When I learned to love also my selfish side and understand how that benefited me to be selfish sometimes, then I could also accept others for when they were selfish. And it's just so freeing, because judgment brings so much negative energy with it when we do it, because then we're not focused on ourselves and what we want for our life. We're not focused on this positive energy, this good flow momentum. We're focused on what someone else is doing wrong. And what a terrible way to live our life. And we all do it. It's normal. We all do it, myself included. But if we can just see it as here's something that I need to learn to love within myself, then I just think life gets better. So, long explanation of number 2. But the second habit does lead us to habit number 3, which is set self-improvement goals. I feel every time in my life when I am not feeling fulfilled, I am feeling a lack of motivation, I am feeling like I am focusing on others on what other people are doing wrong, rather than focusing on me and what I want to be doing, it is because I am not focused on a self-improvement goal. And when I say self-improvement goal, I am talking about the kind of goal that I am in full control of. So some goals we're not fully in control of. We're in control of the daily habits, the daily action steps that are leading us towards the goal. But becoming a bestseller, making a certain amount of money, manifesting our dream partner, like there's certain things that we are not in full control of, but we're only in control of what we do to get there, like our daily habits and actions. So when I say self-improvement goals, it's more of like being consistent with a workout routine that makes me feel really good. It's being consistent with a night routine that makes me feel really good. Morning routine. It is having a daily to-do list of 3 things maybe that I make sure that I get done before I start scrolling on social media. It's those like goals that I am in full control of. It is like, for me, for example, uploading a certain amount of videos every week. Like that is something I am in control of. How people respond to those videos, I'm not always in control of. I can take in the feedback that I'm getting and make sure that I bring more value, that I get better, that I bring people the types of content that they enjoy, if it's also aligned with my values and my goals, obviously. But I can learn from the feedback, but I'm not in control fully of how well the content I'm producing does. Like I can have a goal with this podcast and say, oh, I want this many viewers every single week, or listeners, I guess it's called when it's a podcast. But I'm not in control of that, really. All I can focus on is developing, creating the best, most useful, valuable podcast that I can. So when I'm not fully feeling excited, it's because when I'm not fully feeling motivated, focused on myself, excited about life, it's because I haven't gotten really excited about a goal that I want for my life. And if you don't know what your goal needs to be, then I'm sure you know what you don't want in your life. And so maybe starting off by writing down all the things you don't want in your life. Oftentimes when I have done that in the past, it's like made me look at the things I don't want, and that has gotten me so motivated and gotten me a lot clearer on what I do want. And something I've talked about is also going for the things that you're curious about, doing something that you love doing as a child, or just moving towards those things that you know make you feel really good. Maybe that's taking a boxing class, a dancing class every day that just gets you hyped, or it's, you know, that like putting 300 words to a page every day makes you get into this creative flow, or whatever, getting up at a certain time makes you feel really good. So if you've been focusing on someone else, or you haven't felt that inner fire, set a goal, a really clear goal. And I personally feel like that helps me a lot. And the thing I keep talking about is how when we're evolving and growing, we just have a different feeling in our body. It just makes us feel so different and good on a daily basis. So that was number 3. Number 4 is this habit of really trusting that everything that happens, whether it feels like a massive obstacle, the craziest adversity, that it is for you. Oftentimes when negative things happen, or everything doesn't go according to how we wanted it to go, it's so easy to get into this flow of just like feeling sorry for ourselves and feeling negatively about it not working out the way that we wanted it to, and ask like, why is this happening? And just not trust, oh wow, there's fireworks going on outside. It's January 6th, so that's interesting. I lost track there. It's so easy to get into a negative spiral. But something that helps me every time is going back. Sometimes I go all the way back to my childhood. Sometimes it's teenage years, and sometimes it's just like a year back. And I write down all the quote negative things that has happened, but then, or at least things that I thought were negative at the time, but then the writing out all the lessons, all the miracles, all the beautiful experiences that came from what I thought was negative. And from seeing how all these quote unquote negative things that I thought were negative at the time, how they actually led to far greater things than I could have even imagined, I gained this sense of trust and knowing that, okay, well, then there's probably a miracle waiting for me. And it's a practice that I feel I'm getting better and better at. And I go back and then I move forward, and it's this constant like reminder. But it really does help me reflect on all these things that I previously thought were gonna like have a negative effect on me, but then it just led me to far greater things than I could have ever imagined. When we can really cultivate this belief that every challenge is helping us redirect back to the right track, the right direction in our life, life just gets better because we're willing to learn and see and listen to those voices that are speaking to us. I often take a hike in nature, do yoga. I have this visualization meditation, surrender meditations that I will do. I love Rising Higher meditations on YouTube. I've been following her meditations for years and they're just beautiful. So I highly recommend doing something that you know gets you connected with the higher power, whatever that is for you. At least that really, really helps for me. Every time I feel a little sidetracked, a little off track, a little challenge coming my way. Number 5 is improving interpersonal skills and really showing respect, having understanding, wanting to understand and cooperate with others, active listening rather than wanting to prove your worth by maybe sharing your point of view of everything. And this belief that we are always fully responsible for every relationship, taking full ownership of our part of what has been maybe gone wrong in relationships. I think that developing a genuine interest in other people, a genuine wanting to understand and wanting to know their perspectives, their views, just like this genuine love for other people, rather than this wanting to focus on ourselves and prove our point and prove that we're worthy and good enough. And putting down our ego is a never-ending journey, and I feel in our closest relationships, that's where we're gonna experience and come across those challenges the most. But seeing our relationships again as a lesson, as an opportunity to grow, and becoming aware of when we are connecting and communicating with others, understanding when am I getting triggered, when am I living in my ego, and when am I in a place of love. And I feel for me, the more I practice that, the more after maybe an experience where I've been in my ego or trying to protect myself because it was a topic that I felt insecure within or unworthy within, the more I, let's say after that little experience, I go back, I reflect on it in my journal on what can I do next time that happens. I can remind myself that I'm good enough, that I don't need to prove myself, that it's okay that we have different beliefs and I can understand and respect them, and I will understand and respect myself, like reflecting upon those maybe challenges in relationships or just like small little acquaintances Maybe we've had an experience where we were in a positive state and then this person came across that maybe had negative energy. If I was negative affected by that energy, ask myself, what was it within their energy that made me put that negative energy onto me or take on that negative energy? Oh, it was this and this and this. Okay, how can I next time make sure to protect my good energy so that that doesn't affect me? Like really reflecting every time that I've had an experience that maybe didn't feel so good when it comes to other humans. Okay, how can I learn from that and next time really just have a genuine wanting to understand the other person, protect myself, and just stay in this loving state. I mean, life is really about helping and being with other people, living in love, right? And the more we can improve our interpersonal skills, I think the better life gets, the better relationships get, the more we can impact the world in a positive way. And I think it's all connected with these other areas of growth that I've shared in this podcast episode. But this is just another great habit that I'm still practicing and that has benefited me a lot. And it also has to do with this previous habit of judging other humans and instead like coming from a place of understanding. It's really, really useful. And the taking ownership, like if you have a challenge in a relationship, ask yourself, where am I not taking ownership? Where am I blaming the other person rather than looking at myself? Because we are always 50% of the problem. Whatever is going on in a relationship, that's a topic for another podcast, but we are always at least 50% a reason for this conflict. And oftentimes when we take ownership, it can resolve the entire issue, challenge, because there has to be two people for an argument. There has to be two people for a challenge, because if one just brushes it off, stays calm, stays in love, there cannot really be a challenge because there has to be two people for that. Habit number 5. I don't remember if I said that the previous one was number 5, but it was number 4. So habit number 5 is question everything that I do in life. That has been an incredible habit because I, just like many other humans, have been very good at lying to myself. And when I say lying, it's like making up excuses as to why I can't do something to protect myself from the discomfort that I do not want to feel if I decide to actually take on this challenge, this thing that I know I need to do. And so it's easier for me to come up with excuses and just make myself believe that I don't need to, that I can't, that I'm not capable, worthy, whatever it is. So really questioning my life choices and habits. It can also be if I keep saying yes to things that I don't want to be doing, things that don't bring me value, ask myself, why is it that I say yes to these things when I know deep down every time I regret it because I don't want to do it? Is it because I feel like if I don't say yes, this person is gonna dislike me, and because I've built my self-worth on what other people think of me, I won't feel loved, I won't feel good enough, and then I'll feel useless and worthless, and I'll go down this negative spiral of just being a terrible human being, and I won't be able to handle those emotions because I haven't learned to handle those emotions, because I've always valued my self-worth on what other people think of me. And so I can't say no. Like, that's a really tough reality, because then I realize, oh wow, I have to start building this self-worth within myself so that I believe that I'm good enough, and that I don't need to be approved and accepted by others for me to feel good enough. If I know my reasons as to why I say no to certain things, because maybe they aren't aligned with my values, they aren't aligned with my long-term goals, if I then learn that I'm good enough because I stay truthful to myself and my own values, then I know I'm good enough, and then I don't need other people's approval. I don't need to continuously say yes to things that I maybe don't want to say yes to just to make them happy, to feel good enough. And I think that this is a little bit of a side track topic, but that's actually a really important thing, that if we base how good we are based on other people's opinions of us, then that's a really good sign that we gotta build up some self-esteem. And I believe I have podcast episodes on that, and I am definitely gonna make more, because that is just something that I'm very passionate about, because I'm someone who grew up not having a lot of self-esteem and basing my worth off of what other people thought of me. And it's been a continuous journey, but this is not what we're talking about right now. We were talking about questioning every habit and every choice that we make in life. It could also be like asking yourself, why is it that I watch Netflix every night and eat that bag of chips? Does it have something to do with me escaping a part of myself that I am not willing to connect with, that I don't want, a reality that I don't want to face? And what is that reality that I'm escaping from? What is it that I don't want to face? And really just questioning these habits and things that we do in our daily life, because once we become aware of the actual truth, we can start to do something about it. If we stay in this place of not wanting to face the truth, we can't really do anything about it. And maybe we come to the reality and we're not ready yet. Like, some things take time. Some things need time to just stir and develop. And at one point, maybe a year later, we're willing to do something about it. It's interesting because my mom and I had this conversation of, once you realize that a relationship isn't right for you, she's a relationship therapist, and she has realized through her many years of therapy with other couples that it typically it can take longer, it can take a little shorter as well, but typically it will take a year from when you question the relationship that you're in, you realize that this is not the relationship for me, till you're able and capable and willing to make the decision that, okay, it's time to move on. We cannot do this anymore. And that I'm just saying that to say that sometimes we realize something, but we're not willing to let it go. We're not willing to give it up yet. And it may take some time to get ready to actually fully let go of it. For me, when I started this whole thing that I'm doing right now, the first thing I started was my Instagram, as in the career. I'm so on social media that and helping people and everything. The first thing I did was start an Instagram. It was called Workout with Pernilla, where I gave workout tips and motivation and stuff. And it took me, I believe, about a year from when I got the idea, oh my gosh, it would be so cool if I dared to do this, till I actually started it. So sometimes it takes time and just being kind and loving to ourselves, but continuously questioning, why am I not willing to do that yet? What is the fear that's holding me back? What are the beliefs that are holding me back? And really daring to question all our life choices, I think, can be super useful for us. We have 2 left. I'm realizing this podcast is a long one, but I just think it's an important one to start off this year with and start off this season 2 with. But the second last one is one I've talked about many times, so we don't need to go into that much detail with it, because it is about doing challenging things, doing uncomfortable things, and embracing the pain, whether it is during those last reps in a workout, when you feel like, oh my goodness, I cannot do anymore. Or it is speaking up when normally you wouldn't. It is doing public speaking if that's something you've been scared of. It is telling your friend the truth when typically you would please them. I guess that's the same as speaking up. But, really striving towards the things in life that are uncomfortable rather than escaping from them, because that is the way to growth. It's not that the fear is going to disappear, but we're just going to get more comfortable with the fear. And the more comfortable we get with fear, the more willing we are to do more fearful things, which means that will just expand our entire world, belief system, and life, which actually leads to the last and final one, which is be your own inner hype man. I talk to myself. I'm that crazy person that talks to myself. I'm the crazy person that will give myself a high five in the mirror, the Mel Robbins method that has been scientifically proven to help build confidence and better vibes and energy if you do that every single morning. I'm the type of person that at the gym, I'll be like in my head, you got this, you can do this, you're strong AF, you're unstoppable. I'm that type of person that will talk to myself, because if we're not our own best hype man, who is going to hype us up? We think that someone is going to come save us, is going to come teach us all the things we need to know, but that is just not the reality for most of us. We have to be our own hype man. No one is going to believe in us as much as we do. So we better freaking build up some self-belief, and a great way to do that is be our own hype man. It can also be looking yourself in the mirror and just staring into your eyes, either seeing yourself as a young child, being really loving and giving yourself the utmost love and care for all the parts that we typically on a daily basis are maybe really rude and not nice to ourselves towards. Or it's looking yourself in the eyes and saying how freaking badass we are. Really giving ourselves the utmost motivation that we would to someone that we deeply admire, someone that we are so crazy inspired by. Giving ourselves those words of beautiful acknowledgement, because we are all special and perfect and imperfect in the best ways possible, and we're all just here to grow and develop and learn. And that's the beauty of life, isn't it? So the 8 habits that have changed my life and that I hope were great reminders for you today as well was cultivate a growth mindset, learning from our judgments of others. Oftentimes it comes from a place of jealousy because we want it in our own life. It is setting self-improvement goals, trusting that every challenge is for you, not against you, it's for you. It's improving interpersonal skills, questioning every single life choice and habits that we've developed in our life to hopefully create something that's better for us. Do uncomfortable things and be your own inner hype man. I really hope that if you found this useful, that you're willing to share it with someone who you think possibly could find it useful as well. I'm really hoping to grow this podcast this year. I feel like it's some of my most proud work because we get really deep and talk about things that I am very passionate about, which is becoming more happy. So if you feel that it was useful to you and maybe someone else could find it useful, please share it. And if you haven't yet subscribed, I would so appreciate that, and write a review. Anything you feel, I am always willing to learn and grow, and I'm just grateful that you're here listening. So grateful. Thank you so much. And as always, remember that in order for you to grow, you have to challenge your norm.